Tesla stock on Friday was up almost 4% in regular trading, pretty much flat in after hours. You closed at $249.83 per share. 250 is a critical level, okay? If we get above 250, you're going to see a much larger rally to the upside for Tesla. And here in this video, we will talk about just that. Although I'm not super bullish on this market, I think stocks do go lower. In the short term, I think we can bounce more, right? We haven't really seen a bounce yet throughout this 10% correction. This is the first day of a bounce, and it probably continues another day or two. And I think you could get back to your 200-day moving average. Now, where does that put Tesla? And what are the important levels that I am watching for? And ultimately, what would change this setup from being, not so good or to great, all right? What would have to happen for this to actually be a durable bottom, in other words? Now, we'll get to that in just a moment, but I do want to point out Friday was the lowest volume you have seen in 12 days, okay? So since what? So ever since February 26th, okay, which at that point, the SPY was around 600, okay, you were down, give or take, 3% from all-time highs. That was the last time you had volume this low. And you had a 2% bounce on Friday. Typically, that's not a great sign, okay? Weak buying interest or weak buying volume during a bounce indicates that fewer buyers are stepping in to drive prices higher. This could mean the rally is driven more by short-term traders covering positions, like short sellers buying back shares, rather than new committed investors piling in. Without broad participation, the bounce may lack the momentum to reverse the broader downtrend. It says number 2, potential dead cat bounce. A low volume bounce is often a red flag for a dead cat bounce, a brief unsustainable recovery before prices resume falling. This happens when the market temporarily stabilizes or reacts to minor positive news, but underlying selling pressure or bearish sentiment remains dominant. Number 3, a lack of institutional support. Big players like mutual funds, hedge funds, and pension funds typically drive significant volume when they buy. Low volume suggests these institutional investors are sitting on the sidelines, possibly waiting for clearer signs of a bottom or better valuations. Without their firepower, the bounce is less likely to mark a lasting recovery. And number 4, high volume on a bounce signals robust demand and confidence, often confirming a trend reversal. Conversely, low volume implies the move is fragile and could easily reverse if selling pressure returns or if no new catalyst emerges to attract buyers. And you see this a lot during bear markets. You get like 2022, you had a ton of low volume bounces, and it was never the ultimate bottom. Grok says the bottom line here, a correction bounce with very low volume typically means the rally is shaky and lacks the firepower to signal a true recovery. It's often a sign of indecision or a temporary pause in a downtrend rather than a bullish turning point. Traders might see it as a chance to sell into strength, while long-term investors might wait for more robust signals before jumping in. Yeah, I'm a little hesitant to say this is the ultimate bottom, and I'll explain this a little bit more in the next video. Why I'm actually so bearish. Some of you guys may know, but there is new insight coming out that I would like to share with you. One of which that is pretty telling is Lawrence H. Summers on X says, I am convinced there is nearly a 50% chance of a recession and maybe even a far greater risk of recession unless the current policy approach of tariff threats lurching is altered. Now, you probably don't know who this guy is, and I didn't either, but he was the Treasury of the Secretary for President Clinton and director of the NEC for President Obama. This guy was like Scott Bessent, during Clinton, right? So that's why most of us have never heard of him. But, if he can say this, I think even Scott Bessent would say there's a very high chance of a recession based on their policies. Detox and transition periods. That's code language for recession. And any business, leader knows when you hear the word detox or transition period, it doesn't mean good things. But remember, being a good investor is about knowing when to flip and when things change, or when they are likely not to, but understand the probabilities that they can. If the trade war ended tomorrow completely, it would change things a bit. But what are the odds that Trump completely backs down and Doge dissipates? Not likely, in my opinion. So with that out of the way, let's now focus on Tesla. Now, first and foremost, CNN's Michael Schmerknish, probably butchered that, says, quote, "I'm a Tesla owner. I appreciate the technology, and I like that it's made in America. In fact, among all automakers, Tesla is arguably the most American. I don't make my consumer decisions based on politics. I make them based on quality. When it comes to Musk and Trump, I hope they broaden Tesla's appeal." Now, that is something I never thought I would hear on CNN. But he actually goes on to say that a lot of people think that trucks like a F-150 or something is the most American-made vehicle, that you're supporting American workers. And to some extent, you are, right? I mean, I live in Michigan. I know people that work in GM, Ford plants and all that. But a lot of the times it's being produced in Mexico, or assembled in Mexico, with parts that are coming from all over the world. And that is actually what he says in this clip. It's about 3 minutes long, so I'm not going to share it with you, but I think this is actually some good publicity for Tesla. And this article here says Tesla planned to sell the Cybertruck for $100,000 forever. Now it's already selling for much less. People are just retarded, okay? I'm sorry to use language. If you're like my ex-girlfriend, you didn't like that word. Anytime I would say that was retarded or something, she would freak out. Topic for another video. I hope you're not that sensitive. I mean, the word fits the article, because Tesla never planned to sell the Cybertruck for $100,000 forever. Like, that was never in the cards. Sawyer Merritt says here, Tesla had no plans to sell the Foundation Series Cybertruck forever. They actually sold a lot more than everyone was expecting, but demand for a $100,000 truck isn't infinite, which is why they eventually launched the non-Foundation Series. Don't we remember, like, as far back as 2020, when they first introduced the Cybertruck and broke the windows, that there was going to be 3 tiers, like, there was going to be lower price Cybertrucks. And I agree with Sawyer Merritt here. There was a lot more demand for the $100,000 Cybertruck than anyone thought. Like, if you see a Cybertruck out on the roads today, odds are that person paid $100,000 or more for it. Like, that's kind of crazy. OpenAI and Elon Musk have agreed to fast-track a trial over OpenAI's for-profit shift. Elon and OpenAI jointly proposed a trial in December, according to a federal court filing on Friday. I don't think this is, like, hugely important for Tesla. It could be, again, if Elon is allowed to bid for OpenAI, if that bid that they put in actually holds. But if this all ends, it's one less uncertainty potentially for Tesla, which in this market would be a positive. Elon Musk confirms that Starship deports for Mars at the end of next year, carrying Optimus. If those landings go well, then human landings may start as soon as 2029, although 2031 is more likely. You can also see that Kim Kardashian just posted new photos of herself with Tesla's Cybertruck and Optimus robot to her 357 million followers. Between mainstream media, between social media, and, people like Kim Kardashian, like, I don't care who you are in America, you have heard about Tesla multiple times in the last 2 months or so. And Elon and Tesla's association, you're either pulled to the brand or you're alienated from the brand, right? Think about it like this. You could have the best product in the world, But if nobody knows about it, nobody can buy it. You can have the worst product in the world. If everyone knows about it, people are going to buy it. How successful that is, that's a totally different question. But all of this publicity is really just getting the word out for Tesla. And in the book that I'm still currently reading, Diary of a CEO, it shares that, if you have a product and only 20% of people actually like it, then that's a good product. Now that number's a lot higher for Tesla, I would imagine, but that's kind of the same principle. If you have 50 or 100 million people, call them Republicans, in America that are now looking at Tesla, even if 80% of them would never buy it, but 20% are open to the idea or, would buy one, that is a huge net positive, even if you might lose 5% of, your consumer base, if you will, right? Being mad at Elon, which I don't think it's that high. I think these things net to be a huge positive for Tesla. And we will see that in due time. It won't happen right away. It'll take a couple quarters at least. We're not talking years, but a couple quarters at least. By the end of this year, we should have a pretty good understanding that Tesla's accelerating. The Tesla brand is getting healthier. And the ultra red Model S Plaid that Trump bought is still at the White House, and he's literally letting his staff use it. Ted Cruz on X writes, and posts this picture with him in the picture, "This may be the coolest thing I've ever seen by 9.8 million viewers." Republicans, they're gonna start considering Tesla as a viable option in their next vehicle purchase. Now, on Friday, you had 196 different trades from hedge funds and institutions, totaling $590 million, with a positive order value of 35%. So the sentiment, not exactly fantastic in the options market. Again, I think that's more, credibility or validation that this is probably most likely just a bear market bounce. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, short interest for Tesla's 2.4%. You're sitting at some of the lowest levels you've seen in Tesla's business history. Like, even though the stock has fallen a lot, hedge funds and institutions have been covering on the way down. And I think there's a reason for that, right? As Tesla's down 50% from all-time highs, you theoretically have less downside at this point, right? Because you're already down 50% versus the broader markets. If markets sell off, you could have less downside in Tesla. It doesn't make sense to be, having a short position in Tesla when you've already fallen this much. And it's a sign that people are relatively bullish on Tesla. On Friday, you had 153,000 shares that were additionally covered on Friday. And this is really just multiple days now of continued shorts covering. Now, if we take a look at Google Trends data, they have really started to reflect upwards now, which is something that I've been waiting to see. We've wanted to see for a while. Cybertruck went from 15 to 21. The Model Y went from 13 to 16. The Model 3 went from 10 to 12. The Model S went from 5 to 8. And the Model X went from 4 to 5. So all of Tesla's products are currently accelerating in search trend activity. I mean, we'll see what ultimately happens, but this is not a super strong period of the year for Tesla. In this period last year, the Cybertruck was at 21, the Model Y was at 13, Model 3 at 11, Model S at 5, Model X at 5. So on a year-over-year basis, you are looking substantially better. 3 points better on the Model Y. On the Model 3, you're 1 point better. The Model S, you're 4 points better. And the Model X, you're 1 point better. And then the Cybertruck, coincidentally, is at the same 21 as it was last year. So according to just the way that I would look at this, things are going just fine for Tesla. There's really no problem here. Tesla is now only running about 3,000 ads. A lot of them have to do with Tesla's energy generation, solar power, if you will, power walls, solar panels and mega packs, right? Because that makes sense. It's the fastest growing segment for Tesla, and it's very penetrated segment as well. There's a lot of demand that will still come from Tesla's energy division department, and it's the highest margin area, right? So most of Tesla's profits, a good chunk of them, come from energy generation and storage. And that's why Tesla is, well, they just opened the new Megapack factory in China, and they're going to be opening one in Texas that could open pretty fast here, considering they don't have to build the factory. They actually bought a factory. Was it like $40 million? Like something minuscule that'll do $8 to $10 billion in revenue a year. Like, Tesla is shining in spite of all of the negativity out there. All of this considered, I actually don't think, again, Tesla's fallen 50+% because of concerns about the business. I think that is far overstated. I don't think, there's an actual problem here. The scary headlines about 40-50% reduction in deliveries in Europe and China for January and parts of February really just has to do with Tesla switching from the old Model Y to the new Model Y. They've done that. That issue is over with. Deliveries are going to pick up again. The headlines are going to look really good in the next couple of weeks, okay? Most of the reason why Tesla's actually fallen so much has to do with markets pricing in a recession. This is much the same way as the last 2 months of 2021. Before markets actually bottomed in early January of 2022, by October of 2021, stocks were selling off. I mean, momentum stocks peaked out like in July of 2021. Wall Street had already sniffed out that there was a problem coming, okay? And momentum stocks started to get destroyed by the time you even entered 2022. Okay, and that's kind of what's happening here. Wall Street's sniffing out this recession, and the stocks that are the highest multiples, that are the most recession sensitive, are selling off in anticipation of that. And that makes sense from a logical perspective. The question is the selling overdone? And I guess it depends your time horizon, how you value the company. It's difficult with Tesla because everyone values the company differently. It's not like you can say Tesla has a 20 times PE multiple. It's all of a sudden cheap. Like, no, if you're looking at Tesla's multiple, it's still in the 40 range, right? It's still, 40, 50 range or so. It's still what a lot of people would deem expensive, even though from Tesla's perspective, it's like, one of the cheapest it's been in a long time. So I think the question is, do we have recession or not? Does the economy continue to weaken or not? And it's clear that it will. And we'll talk about that more in the next video. And I think that means Tesla could fall further. Now, if you watched the last video, then recessions create, on average, 100,000 to over 1 million millionaires, okay? Like, if you are positioned for a recession, if you have cash, if you continue to work and put that money to work during a recession, you will come out of that in a very good place, right? The Great Depression actually was the recession that made the most millionaires in the history of recessions, right? Some people got wiped out in the Depression. Some people made a fortune in the Depression. Right? Same for '08, same for any other recession we've ever had. If you have cash and you know what you're doing, you can do very well. And that's what you should be prepared for right now. But, cautiously optimistic that things maybe do not get that bad. Okay? So what I've been doing personally is I haven't sold a single stock. The only reason I ever sell a stock is if the business changes, like something happens, or the business takes a turn for the worse, bad management decision, something like that. I don't sell a stock because the price of the stock falls, right? I buy stocks at good prices, so that's not a problem, okay? And same is true for Tesla. Tesla's back to the levels in which I was buying a lot of, some of the levels, okay? I bought a decent amount in the low 200s. When you did hit that, like 220 or so just a couple days ago. But before then, I was buying heavily in the 140s, 160s or so. Could it get back to that level? those prices, of course. If we go into recession, Tesla could be an $80 stock, all right? You should be prepared for that. But it's your opportunity to take advantage of that if that happens. So really what I'm doing right now, I'm not selling any Tesla. I'm not selling any other stock. But I'm really not putting new money to work right now, okay? Especially not with the setup that we have in markets. This looks very much like a dead cat bounce, right? Low volume, suck people in, get people to, get rid of some of their hedges, and then boom, slam the markets down a bit, right? That's what it looks like to me. Now, in the meantime, if Tesla can get above 250, we've seen a lot of resistance here over the past couple of days, then you make a run to the 280s or so. Now, I do think the SPY could get back to its 200-day moving average. I think you probably find resistance there. It's going to be hard to break it, in my opinion. Some people are calling out the 575 level. I think the 570 level is going to be the big one to watch. If we fail there, then we just come right back down. Well, I think Tesla, it could also get to its 200-day moving average around $282. That may present an opportunity to you, right? But don't be surprised when the stock comes right back down again. And honestly, Tesla could trade in this range between, 220 and 280, even if the S&P falls further, right? It wouldn't surprise me if the S&P falls to the 540s or 530s, and Tesla's still in the 220s, right? Or in the low 200s. Like, you don't have to see the sell-off in Tesla, continue to be this bad relative to the S&P. Wouldn't surprise me if Tesla takes a little bit of a break and people start selectively buying beaten down names like a Tesla. So that's kind of my expectation short term. Markets bounce a little bit further. Tesla could bounce a bit further, but ultimately I think you are going to fall again, right? You're going to get a better price to buy Tesla, I think, over the next couple of months. So let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you in the next one.